Disclaimer. The following is a fan-made production. Lorekeeper Studios does not claim to own any of the characters, locations, or scenarios found within the Hyrule Warriors game or the Legend of Zelda series. All such rights are reserved by their respective owners. This production is made out of a love for the stories that have already been told, and we encourage you to support the original products. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
The Angel of Destiny, Episode 1, Psychostorm. Chapter 3, Strange Requests. The following is a continuation of the account residing in Tycalra's journal.
Tycalra? Tycalra, wake up!
I slowly opened my eyes, groaning, and saw a woman standing in front of me. She extended her hand out as to help me get up off the ground. I graciously accepted her offer, grasping her hand in one of my own and using our combined strengths to pull me up. As I stood up, I examined the woman and noticed that she was actually quite tall. Her face gave off a gentle smile, and her eyes were a bright blue color, almost to the point that it seemed like they were glowing. Her outfit was unorthodox, appearing to have a sort of steampunk design. She wore a tan dress that was absolutely covered in folds and frills, and around her stomach was a brown striped vest that seemed to cut off right underneath her breast. In her silvery white hair, she had a pair of very old-timey looking goggles and a hair clip that was adorned with various gears. If I hadn't known any better, I would have said she had walked straight out of an old sci-fi western film. When I returned my gaze to match hers, I saw that she wore a hurried and concerned expression.
Please, listen, I don't have much time.
I didn't quite understand what she meant. I looked around us trying to find any potential threats that might limit our time. As I did so, I quickly realized that I was not where I was when I had fallen unconscious. Instead, I found myself in front of a large temple surrounded by a lush, jungle-like environment. The temple was adorned with many small red hearts, as well as large blue gears that appeared to match the steampunk fashion of the woman in front of me. I looked back to the woman in order to more directly ask her the many questions I had. Who are you? How does everybody know that name? What do you mean by not much time?
None of that is important right now. You will completely awaken soon, and when you do, I need you to find this place.
And where is this place exactly? The woman opened her mouth as if she wanted to say more, but no words escaped. A panicked expression rushed across her face as she started to disappear from my view. She quickly mouthed the words, "Find me," before she faded completely from reality. Hello? Is anyone else out there? In a panic, I began to call out into the jungle, which I noticed was also fading around me. I found it increasingly difficult to maintain my balance as the ground around me disappeared into a white void. A wave of fear rushed over me as the only place left to stand crumbled out from under my foot and I began to fall. Then, I opened my eyes. I looked around and realized that I was on a bed in some sort of tent. I sat up and more closely examined my surroundings. From what I could tell, I was in a medical tent of some sort, but it was different than any medical tent I had ever seen. Instead of medicines and other similar tools, I instead saw the area littered with numerous books and scrolls. Curiosity surging through me, I reached over to a small table that housed a stack of books in order to get a closer look at them, and saw a shattered pair of glasses. I reached up to my face and came to the sudden realization that this broken pair of lenses had previously belonged to me. Again, I retreated to my thoughts. Wondering what I was going to do without my glasses, I looked up and noticed that I could clearly see beyond the books on the small table next to me, a feat I had not been able to do since I was very young. I looked out across the tent, further observing my surroundings, and quickly realized that somehow, my vision had been repaired to the point that I no longer needed the assistance of corrective lenses. I later learned that the Hylians are pretty heavy magic users, especially when it comes to healing magic, and in an attempt to bring me back to health after my battle with the Dodongo, they must have healed my eyes as well. Pleased with my new findings, I began to explore the tent from my bed. I looked around at all sorts of magic books and spells before hearing a host of voices outside. From what I could make out, it seemed as though the captain I had recently gotten to know was addressing several other people I didn't recognize.
He's incredible, Your Highness. Truly spectacular. He's everything the legend said he would be, and he hasn't even had a chance to make them yet.
Calm yourself, Captain. I know you are excited by being able to fight alongside the hero of legend, but we must maintain a certain level of formality.
I don't know, Princess. I think it's okay to be a little excited. I've been observing his exploits for generations, and I'm getting a little giddy over this.
And your reactions are understandable. But please remember, these are his first impressions of this world. He doesn't know anything about any of us, and is yet to establish himself as the hero we have come to know. Let us help him to feel as welcome into this world as we can.
As I listened, I looked around the tent, trying to see if I could at least see the silhouettes of the people producing the voices. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't make out anyone beyond the walls of my shelter, so I instead decided to continue listening as their conversation continued.
Captain, may we please enter so we can speak to him?
Of course.
Alone?
Of course.
Faded silhouettes began to appear by one of the entry points on the tent, before a large flap of cloth was pushed open to allow the figures to enter. Gradually, 4 individuals, 3 women, and 1 man began to enter the tent and face me. The first woman to enter wore a regal dress adorned with a pink lace and numerous triangular symbols, as well as a royal-looking crown that sat on the head of some of the most blonde hair I had ever seen. The second had sky blue hair and wore a white skirt and a deep blue top that left her stomach exposed. The third woman was dressed in a type of battle armor and possessed a sword sheathed on her back that was taller than me and wider than my head. Finally, the man wore a deep green tunic and cap, while also possessing a more traditional blade that seemed to match the one I had previously been given.
Hello, Tycalra. It is good to see you awake.
Hi? I felt bad addressing them in such an informal way, but I was still slightly in shock from the whole situation that it was all I could really muster at the moment.
My name is Zelda, and I am the Princess of Hyrule. I understand that you are confused, and I guarantee that all of your questions will be answered in time. But first, we would like to request something of you.
What could I do for you? No offense, but I was a nobody just this morning. I don't think there's much a princess could gain from me.
This says otherwise.
Everyone in the room looked over at the man clad in green as he pulled one of the Dodongo's large red horns out from behind him and tossed it onto the floor. The 3 women almost seemed to be shocked by his presence, but I was more just confused trying to figure out where he was keeping the horn.
Not many people are capable of defeating a beast like that, and those of us that can would never be able to fell it so quickly. For someone who had never held a real sword in his life before, I'd say that's worth some attention.
I looked at him, a bit taken aback from his bold statements. I had never had anyone talk about me like that, and the man's words surprised me, causing more questions to arise by the second. How could this group of strangers trust me so completely? Why do they all think that I'm someone special? Why does it seem that they all know who I am already? I sat there for several moments, considering these questions and the dozens of possible answers, each theory being more impossible than the last. But before I had time to speak again, the woman with the blue hair walked up and knelt down to match my current height.
Don't you see, Ty? You're so much more than you think. Even if you haven't had the chance to become the hero we know yet, you are still destined for greater things.
Destined for greater things? Yeah, right. I don't believe in destiny.
Whether you believe in destiny or not is irrelevant. You've already proven through your actions that you're capable of dealing with whatever life throws at you, which brings us to our ultimate request. We would like to ask you and your friends to continue to lead our armies and help us win this war once and for all.
My eyes widened. I guess I had known it the whole time, but it hadn't yet struck me that the one battle I had participated in wasn't the end of the bloodshed. While I had been caught up in figuring out what had happened to me, other people were busy fighting an entire war. I sat still for a moment, trying to take everything in, as a new wave of fear rushed over me. This wasn't some sort of game. This was real life. It may not have been the life I was used to, but it was still real. Real people were getting hurt. Real people were dying. Real people were leaving their families, unsure if they would ever see them again. And I was pulled right into the middle of it.
You don't have to decide right away, and we won't blame you if you say no. But we could really use your help.
We'll leave you in peace while you decide.
And remember, choose what you think is right. Please do not feel obligated to do anything because we asked you to.
The 4 figures left the tent as I continued to sit in silence. I stared at the Dodongo horn the man had left behind, remembering how incredible it felt as I vanquished the beast. But even still, I wasn't sure. I wasn't a warrior, nor did I have any experience in fighting other than that early battle. A wave of thoughts ran through my head, some reasons to fight, some to run, and others still odd amalgamations of both. I stood up, hoping that some fresh air might help me think a little better, and began making my way towards the tent's exit. I pushed aside the cloth and stepped out into the school campus, only to see that the troops had made a temporary camp within it. I stood still for a moment, observing the world now drenched in the darkness of night. I watched as my friends and companions bustled around the crowded courtyard, mingling with our new Hylian acquaintances, moving crates of supplies from place to place, or taking some combat pointers from some of the more experienced soldiers. I smiled, watching the quick companionship between 2 kinds of people who were literally worlds apart. None of them asked for this, and yet here they were, working together to make the most of their situation. As I took a few more steps forward, a loud voice echoed across the courtyard. "He's awake!" Startled, I turned to look for the one who had just shouted, but before I got the chance to see who it was, I was swarmed by my fellow students, each one shouting joyous praises of my victory against the enemy army and the lizard-like beast that had attacked us. As the arms of nearly a dozen students lifted me into the air, a host of new thoughts rushed through my head. I now knew what I had to do. After a minute or 2 of endless praise, my friends fell silent and parted to allow the 4 figures from earlier to approach.
Have you made your decision?
I have. A hushed silence fell over the school. Every single person eagerly awaited my announcement, determining whether we would continue to fight, or we would stay at the school until we found a way to return home. I will fight with you, but only under one condition. I want at least 100 highly trained troops to stay here and protect my friends. We didn't ask for this, and most of us know nothing about combat. For this reason, I want none of them participating in this war any further. Zelda turned back to discuss my proposition with the other leaders of the army. Silence fell across the courtyard, save only a few hushed murmurings from various points within the crowd. For a moment, I thought that what I was asking was too harsh. In this kind of situation, every asset counts, and asking them to lose even a portion of those assets, well, who knows what kind of damage that would cause. But I needed to know if they truly believed that I was destined to save them. If they did, they would have me help them, no matter the cost. After several painful minutes of near silence, Zelda returned her gaze to mine.
Tycalra, what you are asking is difficult. You're asking us to sacrifice a sizable number of troops for a single person.
And if I truly am who you say I am, then that sacrifice will be worth it. Zelda turned back towards her other captains as if to get their input. But before any words could be spoken, they all gently nodded in her direction. She nodded back to them before once again facing me, a faint smile now on her face.
I think you're finally beginning to understand. Welcome to the Hylian army,